Welcome to War and Untold Stories. Here, we explore the hidden side of history and the shocking crimes that history tried to forget. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and share your thoughts in the comments. You are nothing, a coward, an animal. These were the words spoken by the families of the victims to the man who terrorized Seattle for nearly 2 decades. In the early 1980s, a deep fear ruled the streets surrounding Seattle. Young women began to vanish without a trace. Their bodies later appeared in rivers, forests, and roadside ditches. This is the true, horrifying story of Gary Ridgway, the man who would become known as the Green River Killer. 30 years ago, Highway 99, near the Seattle-Tacoma Airport, was a dangerous place. It was a strip of cheap motels renting rooms by the hour, shadowy strip clubs, and a large transient population. It was here that many young women worked the streets. Many of them were runaways, and many were survivors of abuse, just trying to get by. To the man who stalked these streets, they were not people with hopes and dreams. They were simply targets. He saw them as disposable, easy to pick up and easy to get rid of, without anyone noticing they were gone. It all started in the summer of 1982. A boater on the Green River spotted what he first thought was a mannequin floating just beneath the surface. But as he got closer, a horrifying realization dawned on him. It wasn't plastic, it was human. Then, tragically, he found another, and then another. One victim's hand seemed to move with the gentle current, as if it were reaching out for help that would never come. The first victims were identified: Opal Mills, just 16 years old; Cynthia Hines, 17, and Marcia Chapman, a 31-year-old mother of 3. Marcia wasn't just a statistic or a name on a police report. She was someone's daughter, someone's sister, and a mother who would never come home to her children. But at the time, the police had no idea that this was only the very beginning of a long and terrifying nightmare. As more bodies were discovered, the FBI identified a terrifying pattern. This was not a crime of impulse or random violence. This was the work of an organized serial killer. Someone who planned his attacks meticulously. Someone who could blend into the community completely unnoticed. Someone with no empathy, no remorse, and a chilling ability to hide in plain sight. By the end of 1982, 15 women were either missing or dead. A wave of fear spread through Seattle like a virus. Rumors exploded across the city. The panic was so intense that some people even began to believe the killer might be one of their own, a member of law enforcement. In one chilling moment, a young woman was seen getting into a pickup truck. Her boyfriend, suspicious and worried, decided to follow it. He tailed the truck all the way to a quiet, ordinary cul-de-sac. The truck was parked right outside a normal-looking suburban house. The boyfriend called the police. They arrived and knocked on the door. A man answered. He calmly told the officers that no one else was there, and they believed him. The man's name was simply added to a file, just one name among hundreds of potential leads. That man was Gary Ridgway. By day, he was a truck painter at a local Kenworth factory. A smiling coworker, a seemingly gentle boyfriend. He got married, he raised children. To everyone around him, he appeared completely and utterly normal. But behind the closed doors of his ordinary life, he had already murdered more than 40 women. Then, just as suddenly as they began, the killings seemed to stop. The years went by, and people started to believe the killer was gone, that the nightmare was finally over. But in 2001, nearly 2 decades after the first bodies were found, advances in DNA technology completely changed the game. The cold case was reopened. Forensic scientists re-examined evidence that had been carefully collected decades earlier from Marcia Chapman's body. They compared it to a saliva sample that had been collected from Gary Ridgway years before. The result was undeniable. It was a perfect match. The quiet truck painter, the man who had been questioned and dismissed so many years ago, was the Green River Killer. He was the most prolific serial killer in the history of the United States. So who was this man? Was he born a monster, or was he made into one? Ridgway was born in 1949. His childhood was deeply disturbed. He had a father who openly despised prostitutes, a hatred he would later adopt. His mother exhibited inappropriate sexual behavior toward him. He suffered from chronic bedwetting well into his teens, a classic sign of deep psychological distress. He also set fires and had violent fantasies. As a teenager, he stabbed a 6-year-old boy, not out of anger, but simply to see what it felt like. The boy survived, and Ridgway was never caught. The monster was learning to hide. His methods were deceptively simple. Ridgway appeared harmless. He was quiet, meek, and seemed safe. He used this non-threatening persona to his advantage. Sometimes he even had his young child in the car with him, a tactic to make his potential victims feel secure. He would lure women to his home or into the back of his truck. Then, he would strangle them. He felt absolutely no remorse. In his confessions, he admitted that some victims meant so little to him that he couldn't even remember their names, their faces, or their ages. To him, they were not human beings, they were objects. In 2003, to avoid the death penalty, Gary Ridgway confessed. In a cold, flat voice, he told investigators, "I killed them all." He pleaded guilty to 48 counts of aggravated murder, though he suspected of killing more than 70. He was sentenced to 48 consecutive life sentences with no possibility of parole. He would die in prison. During the sentencing, Ridgway was forced to face the families of the women he had murdered. The courtroom was filled with raw grief and anger. One woman, her voice shaking, said, "I was that daughter waiting at home for my mom to come back." But then, a father of one of the victims stood up and said something that stunned the entire courtroom. He looked at Ridgway and said, "There are people here who hate you. I'm not one of them. I forgive you." In that space between unimaginable cruelty and unimaginable forgiveness, the courtroom fell silent. The question remains, was Gary Ridgway born to kill? Experts still debate it. But one truth is undeniable. Many people suffer abuse. Many people feel anger and have dark thoughts. But very few choose to become murderers. Gary Ridgway chose it again and again. 48 women lost their lives. Their stories mattered. Their names mattered. This is not just the story of a killer. It is the story of the victims and the precious lives that were stolen from them. We remember them. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing for more true stories that deserve to be told.